Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is wonderful to have all of you here with us this evening. We are inside. We keep fighting this weather thing and hoping that we'll be able to get outside, but it's just a little too hot, so we figured we'd stay in here with the air conditioning and get to pray comfortably tonight. So it is wonderful for all of us to be here together, so we'll get started with Hine Matov on page 2 of our summer service booklet.
Hine Matov
Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Hine Matov Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is,
How good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. How good it is,
how good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it
to be
is
together on this day. Hine Matov Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
We will continue at the bottom of page 2, reading responsively. Live each day to the fullest. Get the most from each hour, each day, and each age of your life. Then you can look forward with confidence and back without regret.
Be yourself, but be your best self. Dare to be different and to follow your own star. And don't be afraid to be happy.
Enjoy what is beautiful. Love with all your heart and soul. Believe that those you love you.
Forget what you have done for your friends, and remember what they have done for you.
Disregard what the world owes you and concentrate on what you owe the world.
When you are faced with a decision, make that decision as wisely as possible and forget it. The moment of certainty never arises.
Blessed is the generation in which the old listen to the young.
And doubly blessed is the generation in which the young listen to the old.
And we'll continue with L'cha Dodi, welcoming in our Shabbat bride. When we get to Bo'ii v'Shalom, our third verse, we will rise to welcome in the Shabbat bride. We'll turn to the entrance, and then we'll turn back around when we get to L'cha Dodi again.
L'cha Dodi, likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat, nikabla, nikabla. L'cha Dodi, likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat, nikabla, nikabla. L'cha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'cha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikabla, nikabla. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Yishmi'anu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'hitilah. L'cha Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nikabla, nikabla. Hitoreri, kiva orech kumiori. Uri, shir debari, kevod Adonai alayach nigla. L'cha Dodi,
לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה, בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה וצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה.
We'll turn to the reading, page 3 at the top of page 5. For the good in us which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and hands, we give praise. For the peace in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For all these, we give thanks to the Creator of life and nature. And we'll continue with Chatzi Kadesh on page 5.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ביומת יברח ירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו, יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו.
We rise for the call to worship the Baruch Hu on page 6. We turn to these words, Ma'ariv Aravim, thanking God for putting the stars in their course in the sky. And these words are especially poignant this evening. We've just seen over the last week the images from the telescope, from the James Webb telescope, and seen how beautiful and vast our universe really is. We'll read together in the Hebrew on page 6. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, bechokma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil bein yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. We'll read these words of Ahavat Olam at the top of page 7. Beloved are you, eternal God, by whose design the evening falls, by whose command dimensions open up, and eons pass away, and stars spin in their orbits. You set the rhythms of day and night, the alteration of light and darkness. Sing your creating world. In rising sun and in spreading dusk, Creator of all, you are made manifest. Eternal, everlasting God, may we always be aware of your dominion. Beloved are you, Adonai, for this hour of nightfall. We'll read in the middle of page 8, responsively, how wonderful, O God, are the works of your hands. The heavens declare your glory. The arc of sky displays your handiwork.
Robed in all its splendor, the sun and the stars,
the valleys and the hills, the rivers and lakes, all disclose your presence.
The roaring breakers of the sea tell of your awesome might. The beasts of the field and the birds of the air bespeak your wondrous will.
In your goodness, you have made us able to hear the music of the world, the raging of the winds, the whisperings of the trees in the wood, and the precious voices of loved ones reveal to us that you are in our midst.
A divine voice sings through all creation.
Shema
Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated. We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 9.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam livanecha, vidibarta bam, beshivtecha beveitecha, uvlechtecha vaderech, uvshachbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leod al yadecha, vahayu latotafot beineinecha, uktavtam, Al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti echem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem lelohim, ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. We'll continue with the reading at the top of page 10. Emet. There is no place where you are not. Even in the wilderness, there is your word. Emet. That pen stroke of lightning, white fire, black flame, stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is the Torah. Your truth for us is certain and established, now and forevermore. Like Moses, Miriam, and all Israel, we sing out and rejoice.
kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha netar b'kodesh. Norah tehilot, oseh eleh. Norah tehilot, oseh eleh. Adonai yimlok le'olam va'ed.
And we'll continue at the top of page 11. If you separate yourself from certain weekday activities, you might imagine each of these as a step away from the ordinary, hectic world into the peaceful realm of Shabbat. Imagine yourself stepping away from a world of carrying money to a realm where everything is yours just for the looking. Stepping away from a world in which everything must be written down to a realm where all is grasped just in the listening. Stepping away from a world of frenzied traffic by walking down a quiet lane. Stepping away from a world soaked in artificial light, which needs to be turned on and off, into a realm where only the rising and the setting sun, the interplay of brightness and shadow, light of your life.
Veshameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam beni uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam leolam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim et haaretz uvayom hashevi shavat vayinafash.
We rise now for the tefillah, our standing prayer on page 12.
Open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu.
Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Geulah Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Hakol, Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umkayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'Gevurot Umitom Hela, Melech Memit Umchayei Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atah L'chachayot Hakol, Baruch atah Adonai Makayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom yachasela. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated. We turn to the middle of page 14 and read responsively. There is holiness when we strive to be true to the best we know.
There is holiness when we are kind to someone who cannot possibly be of service to us.
There is holiness when we forget what divides us and remember what unites us.
There
There is holiness when we are willing to be laughed at for what we believe in. There is holiness when we love, truly, honestly, unselfishly.
There is
holiness when we remember the lonely and bring cheer into dark corners. There is holiness when we share our bread, ideas, and our enthusiasm.
There is
There's holiness when we gather to pray to God, who gave us the power to pray. And we'll turn to this reading for Modim, our prayer of thanksgiving, our prayer of Hoda'ah. In the middle of page 15, we'll read responsively. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us.
You
You
made us little less than divine,
adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. We turn to this prayer of peace, Shalom Rav, a prayer we so desperately need in these times. We'll sing together.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol ed uvechol shah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
Our thoughts turn to those in our community who are in need of refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, a healing of soul and a healing of body. These words of shalom, of peace, of wholeness are just on our lips, and now we turn to words of shalem, of asking for bodily wholeness and wholeness of soul and wholeness of mind. At this time, our Congregation Shalom community is thinking of Shandol Bat Frida Malka, Julie Borikoff, Margot Raz, Carol Dubin, Samsara Vizkaya, Sharon Rotman, Bob Radke, Lyle Rubel, Jean Vass, Alan Turner, Steve Toplinsky, Myron Dvorkin, Esther Cohen, Lisa Furstad, Terry Finch, Harav Ilana Miriam Batchava, Faye Levin, Hachazan Sarah Rachel Bat Yocheved Alexander, Tia Barrett, Wendy Salzberg, Steve Plotkin, Kathy Peltz, Avram Ben Naphtali, Emma and Max, Doug Cruz, Nadiva Sarah Batliba, Carol Rovner, David Goldstein, Marilyn Harmon, Chris St. Martin, Barry Bursack, Debbie Kelly, Susan Sack, Reza Tzvia Batshena Etta, Mary Frankowitz, Sophia Rubenstein, Alana Himmelfarb, Charmaine Hayden, Wendy Wiviet, Sue Weller, Kate Wilson, Yocheved Bat Rundle V'chaim, Walter Shapiro, Otto Feller, Avraham Bat Frida, Marla Chakowski, Michael Sachek, David Rotter, Helene Wallenberg, Peter Becker, Natalie Cohen, Teresa Drews, Yona Neri Ben Avraham Visara, Batya Bat Moshe Valiba, Keith Mandel, Jamie Creeman, Isla Bat Natan Vashoshana, Douglas Vreeland Schuett, Mark Cook, Peyton Roberts, Cooper Saul Roberts, Luke Clinton Roberts, Keely Roberts, Jason Roberts, Mark Berlin, and Dr. Susie Mendelson. If there are loved ones who you are thinking of at this time who are in need of a refuat hanefesh or refuat haguf, I invite you to hold them in your hearts as we turn to these words of Misha Beirach on page 17.
Shebeirach avotenu mikor habracha ve'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mikor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
With those words of healing echoing in our hearts, we turn to silent prayer for the meditations that are in your own heart.
Say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael. Say Shalom bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu.
Shabbat Shalom. This evening, I want to share with you about something that is weighing heavily on my heart. The subject matter is sensitive, rape and abortion, and I invite you to take care of yourselves by stepping out of the room or turning off your sound if you need. I looked on in horror 3 weeks ago when it was reported that a 10-year-old girl from Ohio was raped and impregnated, then forced to travel out of state to terminate the pregnancy. Her mother reported the abuse to Franklin County Children's Services on June 22nd, just 2 days before the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which triggered Ohio's abortion ban at 6 weeks. The child was 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant. The nation was gripped by this story of abuse, which highlighted the serious consequences of relinquishing control of abortion rights to states. How is it possible that a girl who will go to 5th grade this fall would be forced to endure the physical pain and emotional distress of carrying a child? She herself is still a child, and after suffering from sexual abuse. Surely, this cannot be. And yet, Ohio's abortion ban makes no exception for rape and incest. What perhaps seemed theoretical to those watching on June 24th became all too real. Where is the justice? Tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue, is a phrase we often repeat in Reform Judaism. Social action, caring for the disenfranchised, is a core tenet in our faith. Why is the word tzedek repeated? Wouldn't tzedek tirdof be enough? Justice you shall pursue. Its repetition teaches us that we must passionately pursue justice, the Hebrew equivalent of bolding and underlining the text. We can look at it from another angle. If it is just for him, it must also be just for her. If there is justice for my people, then there must be justice for all people. What happened to this young girl was the furthest thing from justice. The Jewish people understand what it means to be disenfranchised. We lived as second-class citizens in lands around the world, from the Abbasid Empire to Eastern European ghettos. Jews paid taxes to retain their community's safety, set apart from the general population but allowed to coexist. We did not enjoy citizenship until much later than other minority religions and ethnicities. It went all the way back to the Torah, to our Exodus story. We saw how our ancestors were treated in Egypt under the Pharaoh who did not know Joseph. This harsh treatment opened the narrative of our oppression. Pharaoh misunderstood the Hebrews and feared them to the point of sinat chinam, baseless hatred. He made it law that their baby boys be murdered upon birth, imposing restrictions on Hebrew women's bodily rights. We read the stories of brave midwives, Shifra and Pua, who practiced civil disobedience in the face of this unjust law, helping Hebrew mothers protect their sons. They told authorities that the Hebrew women were so strong and vigorous that they regularly birthed their babies before the midwives even arrived. Shifra and Pua refused to follow orders to take choice out of the hands of Hebrew women. After a miraculous escape from Egypt and 40 years wandering in the desert, the Israelites stood on the precipice of entering the Holy Land. Here, at the end of our Exodus narrative arc, we again encountered women fighting an unjust law, this time in the form of Zelophehad's daughters, advocating for their rightful place at the table. Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah refused to go quietly after their father's death. You see, Zelophehad had land, and the rights to that land were about to be distributed to the rest of the tribe to which he belonged. The daughters, understanding the land as their rightful inheritance, protested its dispersal. Their father had no male heir, so it should evenly be split among his daughters. The law said otherwise. They worked within the system to advocate for themselves and demand what was rightfully theirs. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice you shall pursue. These women understood that value. The system was meant to leave them disenfranchised. It did not work in their favor, much like those capable of pregnancy today. For a long time, pregnant women in the United States were subjected to back alley abortions, seeking care from providers who were ill-equipped, or worse, turning to their own devices, finding any way they could possibly think of to end an unwanted or dangerous pregnancy, even if they risked their lives in the process. Women were dying because they were not allowed to access basic medical care. New York, a high-profile state for abortion, drew the ire of what became known as the pro-life movement. Eventually, the fight reached the highest level of law in the land. In 1973, abortion rights activists took a huge step forward with the Supreme Court's ruling in Roe v. Wade, legalizing abortion at the federal level. For almost 50 years, pregnant people have exercised their constitutional right to choose what they do with their bodies. The women behind the class action lawsuit, Roe v. Wade, and all those who have come after have fought within our legal framework to enshrine the right to abortion for any who need to exercise it. And almost a month ago, we sat and watched as that federal protection dissolved with the Supreme Court's ruling in Dobbs versus Jackson. The system has turned against us. Once again, it leaves us disenfranchised. And so let us turn to the model of the daughters of Zelophehad, to Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, and Tirzah, to lead the way. We must demand a seat at the table to ensure bodily autonomy for every body. It is time to reach out to our state legislators to let them know that we support safe access to abortion. The Women's Health Protection Act and the Equal Access to Abortion Coverage in Health Insurance Act passed in the House of Representatives last week. Between these two bills, the right to abortion would be codified, and states could no longer punish people for traveling out of state for reproductive health care. Our state senators need to hear from their constituents how important this issue is. We need to share our story, that the right to freely practice our Jewish religion includes the right to abortion. They have the opportunity to welcome us to the table by voting yes on these bills. Let us hold steadfast in demanding bodily autonomy, specifically the right to abortion, for everyone in our community. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Amen. We will begin to conclude our service this evening with Aleinu on page 18. We rise, and it's an honor to call forward Linda Berlin and Sarah Lubar to open our ark doors for us this evening.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני
may be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who have physically departed this earth, and though their presence is no longer on this earth, we keep them in our hearts and in our minds, and they guide us each and every day. We recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, and those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have taken into our hearts with our own. During the period of Shiva, our Congregation Shalom community commemorates the lives of Rabbi Dow Marmer and Gary Mendelblatt, and during the period of Shloshim, the lives of Stephen Glick, Richard Lisberg, and Debbie Silberman. And those who have died at this time in seasons past, Kenneth Bacall, Barbara Bayless, Joseph Berman, Barry Bruskin, Florence Durzon, Ralph H. Eder, Alan Edward Feen, Esther Friedman, Marion Gartenberg, Edith Gershon, Gladys Goodman, Harry Gorbitz, Jack Greenwood, Emil Herman, Ida Himmelreich, Sylvia Kaufman, Elaine Kohlenberg, Shirley A. Krause, Muriel Leopard, Florence Leuenauer, Vera Lubotsky, Sam Malofsky, Ida H. Marcus, Alexander A. Markey, Catherine Golan Miller, Barbara Pash, Sylvia Pash, Ethel Pass, Harold Pentler, Ann Perchonik, N. Paley Phillips, William Recht, Donald Buddy Rubin, William Rosenthal, Marilyn Rotter, Andrew Sager, Bernard Samosky, Eva Sattler, Daniel A. Schoenfeld, Samuel Shapiro, Harry Scher, Mo Ship, Sylvia Ann Shovers, Sheldon Shumo, Mitchell Siegel, Dennis Sohn, Grace Stillman, Alvin Suker, Lala Tischberg, Al Turek, Ronald Wiseman, Gerald Weinberg, Harold Winston, Robert Zenner, Lou Zemmel, and Moishe Zucker. If there are loved ones who you are thinking of who have passed that you'd like to share aloud with our community, please feel free to share their names as my eyes meet yours. And in addition to those loved ones we hold in the deepest recesses of our heart, we also think of the 6 million who perished in the Shoah, as well as those who have died due to acts of war and/or terrorism around our globe, and those who have died due to the pandemic ravaging our globe, as well as those who no longer have anyone to say Kaddish for them. We turn to these sacred words of Kaddish Tome of Mourner's Kaddish on page 20, and we rise as one community. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, V'alma Divra Chirutei V'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayachon Uvyomachon U'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agala U'bizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mivorach Leolam U'lalmei Almaya, Yit Barach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh, V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei dekudasha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'miran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'romav, u'yasei shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing, and together we say, amen. You may be seated. And it's an honor to call up Brent Arnold to share the Bima this evening to give us some announcements about the congregation. Shabbat Shalom.
Well, thank you, Rabbi. What a wonderful service we have tonight. And although we're not in the wine garden, It's great to see you all as well. And I want to thank Mark and Wendy Cohn for bringing such harmony to our service tonight. Well, both of our kids are now away at overnight summer camp, and I must say that I did get a little emotional saying goodbye to them on Wednesday as all the kids boarded the bus to head off to JCC Camp Interlaken. I know a lot of our congregants have kids right now in the Jewish summer camps, and I'm excited to hear all about their Jewish summer experiences when they all return back here to Congregation Shalom. I also want to let you all know that Congregation Shalom is hosting a really interesting program this Sunday, July 24th at 1 o'clock p.m. on the current state of anti-Semitism. Join us in welcoming Trent Spoelstra, the regional director of the Anti-Defamation League, to discuss where we are in our world regarding anti-Semitism, harassment, vandalism, and assaults. A very important topic to stay educated about. A reception will then follow right after the presentation. Wisconsin's next election is already coming up on August 9th, and our Shalom Votes campaign reminds you to get out to the polls and get your votes in. Every vote counts, and your votes are what shapes our democracy. Planning is still underway for a Shalom family trip to Israel over Hanukkah this year. Rabbi Noah is looking forward to traveling with our congregational families to Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, northern Israel, and the Negev. If you're interested, there's a form to fill out, or you can speak with Rabbi Noah when he returns. On Saturday, August 20th, from 9 a.m. till noon, we will be returning to the Hunger Task Force's brand new location to volunteer and sort and pack food. Thanks to our lifetime trustee who's here tonight, Jim Ross, for coordinating all of this. We look forward to adding to our previous more than 1 million pounds of food that we've already sorted there. So please let Jim know if you're interested and would like to participate. I hear that room is filling up. Also a reminder, for those experiencing grief in their lives, every Wednesday from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, Shalom has partnered with JFS to provide a grief support group. For more information, check it out at our weekly email. We hope to see you soon at our daily minyan, our Saturday Torah study, our Shabbat services, and our Saturday luncheon. We also welcome you to participate in our Tuesdays adult education classes and Thursdays What's New conversation. Thank you all for being here tonight, and I want to wish you all a wonderful Shabbat Shalom.
And I'd like to invite Kelly Arnold up with Brent to lead us in our candle blessings. So we bring in the light of Shabbat this evening, and it is such light that Brent and Kelly bring to our community here at Shalom. So it's an honor to share the bima with you both. And we are on page 21.
As the day becomes night, the velvet cloak of darkness descends, enveloping us in its warmth. We snuggle into its folds, eyes closed, breathing deeply. We feel at peace. We feel the cares and worries of the day fall away, leaving quiet, contentment, serenity. We see, even with eyes closed, two small pinpoints of light drawing us close, causing us to feel a warmth inside as well as out. We smile and embrace them, as we do each week, as our ancestors did, as our children will do each week.
We'll turn to page 22 for the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, b'mitzvotav. V'tzivanu, v'tzivanu, l'hadlik-ner. V'tzivanu, v'tzivanu, l'hadlik-ner. V'tzivanu, v'tzivanu, l'hadlik-ner. Shel Shabbat.
And we turn to our Kiddush blessing. At the bottom of page 22, we rise. The commandment to bless this wine is a commandment to drink life as deeply as we drink from this cup. It is a commandment to bless life and to love deeply. It is a commandment to remember with Shabbat heart, to act with Shabbat hands, to see the world with Shabbat eyes. It is a commandment to laugh until we are all laughter, to sing until we are all song, to dance until we are all dance, to love until we are all love. This is the wine that God has commanded us to bless and drink.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
Shabbat shalom.
Delicious. We'll conclude with Shabbat Shalom. The words are Shabbat Shalom.
So please join us. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach, a Shabbat of peace and of blessing.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
We'll see you soon.
Hi.